6 Committee of the Whole meeting. I would like to start by acknowledging that we are gathering and governing on the unceded traditional territory of what is now known as the Comox Nation. And we are ever grateful for their grace and collaboration as we do this good work on their lands. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And we have a delegation with Josie Osborne, who is our MLA and the Minister of Health. Welcome, Josie. Thank you so much for making time to be with us today at our celebrating the wastewater opening, and here for a conversation about all things Cumberland.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe what we'll do, we have items on a list which I believe you are privy to. I want to just shuffle up the order just to keep things interesting. So because we just came freshly from the wastewater treatment plant, is it called a plant? Facility? Facility. I thought we could start with the liquid waste management plan. And I understand we have submitted our plan and we are awaiting provincial approval, which we hope to be imminent, like the end of March. Should that not happen, is there some way to get a nudge to the ministry or something, or if you have any insight on that process?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I certainly will contact the minister's office and learn what I can about where it's at in the process and hope that you can have that deadline met.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's the urgency is around us getting phase 2 done during the good weather, which is here now. So thank you for that. That's quick and easy. The next one is housing. Housing and mixed with a bit of healthcare. So, as you know, the province cut the community housing fund from BC Housing this term, and that all projects that were in stream were essentially pulled. I don't know if there's other language around that, if there's some more hopeful language. But Guaxidas, our project, was part of that. That was our third application to BC Housing to get our shovel-ready affordable housing project up off the ground. And now we're a bit, we will be applying federally to build Canada Homes. But I think the funding model is slightly different, and we're concerned that we won't get the affordability. So if you have any intel on the housing file, and if that fund is coming back, is BC Housing done? Is there another mechanism, another tool, another pool of funding when there's more money?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge what an incredible disappointment it was for everybody to hear the news that the Community Housing Fund has been paused for this year. So I want to be clear that it hasn't gone away. It's not canceled. But there was an intake last year, as you well know, because you were participating in it. And effectively none of the projects that applied were funded. And I know you have heard the kind of bigger context around the budget and the challenge that government faced in wanting to protect really core services like health and education, and then make difficult decisions around other funding opportunities, and the Community Housing Fund has been part of that. But again, I just want to come back to the fact that it's really disappointing, and you're certainly not alone. There's one other application in our riding in Mid-Island Pacific Rim that similarly was going for a third time on Denman Island. And people there are just as disappointed as Cumberland is. And I also want to thank you again, and the hard work that you did as elected leadership and with your staff going through zoning processes with the community. It's never an easy thing when there's different views about density and heights of building and setbacks. And I know from personal experience too, from Tofino, that you make some very difficult decisions that not everybody is happy with. And I know we all understand that we can't please everybody all of the time, but you make very difficult decisions when you're promoting a project like that, and you're doing it, in my view, because you really believe in the need and the power and the impact that affordable housing has on people's lives. So with respect to moving forward, hopefully it's viewed as somewhat of a positive thing to know that the plans are in place, that it's shovel ready, that it's there. And I think back to my time as mayor of Tofino when we were in a similar situation, and we did just have to wait, essentially, until we had both federal and provincial governments lined up to be able to put the application in and then take advantage of it. So a best case opportunity, in my view, will be that the CHF opens up again. I can't tell you exactly when that will be, and that you're poised and ready to go. Anything that I can do with respect to liaising and working with Gord Johns as your MP and with the federal government, Minister Robertson federally, et cetera, I'm really happy to do, because like you said, Mayor, there's potentially an opportunity to look at federal programs for this. And I'm sure the community is hoping that you're going to continue to move forward as much as you can.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Councillor Tyrion sits on the regional hospital board and has a couple of things he wanted to raise
Yeah,
around.
please, absolutely.
Yeah, if I can put that hat on for just a moment. Again, you speak of disappointment. I know our board is very disappointed with a few of the decisions that have come down. The loss of funding for the long-term care home in Campbell River, the loss of funding for our health hub here in the Comox Valley. So yeah, just wanted to pass on that we are quite disappointed that these aren't happening. And if you can shed some light on what's happening with the urgent primary care center that is supposed to be coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, yes, and again, just acknowledge that it's always really difficult news, and to understand that the long-term care facility up in Campbell River is being repaced, as the wording is right now. And I know that you've seen, I'm sure you've seen and had those discussions too, and the mayor and I were just talking about this before the meeting, about the cost of long-term care having climbed to a point where new long-term care projects that are coming in that are being built by health authorities are up to the kind of $1.8 million mark per bed. It isn't sustainable. And I would argue it's not responsible for any government to continue in that vein without taking a very good hard look at the approach to building long-term care facilities and how those costs can be brought down. And so effectively a repacing or a pause on the project as is has given Minister Ma, the Minister of Infrastructure, that opportunity to go in with her team and look at new ways of approaching building long-term care facilities. So I was able to have a meeting with her team recently and kind of walked through some of the thoughts, and I'm really encouraged by what I see. And so again, it'll be a matter of time before being able to come back to the long-term care projects altogether and looking at it. And I'm very aware that we are an aging population and a growing population, and our need is only going to increase. At the same time, the investments into the full continuum of seniors care or health care and housing for the last part of life are just as important. There's a small proportion of our population that needs long-term care, but being able to help seniors live at home for as long as possible, we know leads to better health outcomes for people. So not to say that it's not needed, because it is, but that also these other things are needed as well. And then with respect to the UPCC and the hub, I had a good meeting with the chairs, co-chairs or chair and vice chair of the hospital district a little while ago, to talk with them more about I know the board had put a lot of thought into coalescing or aggregating health services into a hub, and had been working with Island Health, and that it was a surprise when Island Health came and said, actually what we would prefer to do is to invest that into the UPCC. Now, I do understand Island Health's perspective from the fact that the kind of bang for the buck and the need to provide more primary care space is like of a higher urgency, I might say, than taking existing healthcare services and bringing them under one hub. And again, it's not that you can't hold on to both of those visions at the same time, but in a world of limited resources, there was a choice that had to be made. And as I said to the chair and the vice chair too, that I'm always open to feedback about how those conversations go, how things are communicated, and where things can be improved. And it's are we just going to use the disappointing word a lot maybe, but it is disappointing when you have done a lot of work to put your priorities forward, and then you hear back from government or from a government agency that actually we need to shift or rejig things, and that's frustrating. That is frustrating and really challenging. So the UPCC, so the funding is there for UPCC and the move into a permanent space. I don't have a date. I can't give you that right now, but I can certainly get back to you with that. I think the Comox Valley, I'll just finish with this, just to say the Comox Valley really stands out in terms of the work that's been done here to attract more primary care providers. I mean, even seeing the Beaufort Clinic come up, and then seeing the work that others have led in terms of attracting primary care. There's really exciting work that's going on in relation to the base and being able to provide care for spouses and families of military members is people are very proactive and very collaborative, I think, when it comes to that. And that is a story that I actually use as health minister, traveling around the province sometimes and talking to some local governments that are maybe a little more resistant to getting involved in primary care. And not to say that it obviously is primarily a provincial responsibility, but in my view, it takes all levels of government and community organizations to really pull together in order to create the conditions for attracting new doctors and nurse practitioners and healthcare workers.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yeah, it does seem to have had a big impact here, the work that Jonathan and that crew have done. Did you want to speak to Beaufort now or after?
We're here on the topic, so
Sure. Yeah,
I
let's
would
do it.
like to. I think you need to recognise that Beaufort Health Society it's just been wonderful to be able to generate and deliver the provision of services here in the village again after the loss of a doctor and practitioner. So thank you so much. And I just wanted to see, we've talked before about the support for the governance model, because that is a volunteer board that delivers, spends a great deal of volunteer time on some pretty challenging topics to run an organisation like that, and just how I'd like to understand just how much further you and the ministry can help support that governance model to potentially to give the board sort of funding and support at that strategic level.
Yeah, thank you for that. Again, it is really exciting and encouraging in my view to see what the Health Society has managed to do, and that is about really driving a community vision for what's possible to deliver here in Cumberland, and then going out and with lots of partnership and support from other places to make it happen. And we are seeing more of this kind of approach, I think, around British Columbia, where community members, local governments, community service organizations are saying we want to have a greater say in terms of shaping what healthcare delivery looks like in our communities. I'm thinking of Shoreline Clinic in Sydney, Whistler 360, obviously in Whistler. These are also nonprofit-led models. And how that shakes out in each community is going to look a little bit differently. What's unique about Cumberland is having nurse practitioners, and which leads to some different kind of funding consequences, I guess I would say, with that are different from models that might have more physicians and other resources there too. Obviously, the connection and relationship with the primary care network here in the Comox Valley is a really important part of this, with respect to funding. I think we're in an era now where we're seeing both the community expression of of engagement and desire to be involved in healthcare delivery and help shape that and know what your community needs best. At the same time as we're seeing a changing nature of the way doctors, nurse practitioners are working. And so we know now that when a doctor who has a panel of, whatever it is, 1,200, 1,500 patients, or more, because there are older doctors who are very close to retirement who have much bigger panels, are retiring, that in some cases they need to be replaced effectively by 1.5 to 2.5 physicians because of the changing nature of the way people are working and the need to strive for work-life balance or raising a small family and all of that. And at the same time, graduates from medical school increasingly do not want to own their own business. So you think of the model from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the doctor that worked like 60, 80-hour work weeks and saw lots of patients, that it's just, and owned their own clinic. It isn't, that isn't what people are looking for anymore. And I think these two things work together, because when a nonprofit or a municipality or a health authority or some other entity comes forward and says, we're willing to take on some of the responsibility around setting up a clinic, around the space, around hiring the staff, doing the administrative, all the work that's involved, all the overhead that's involved in running any business. We just want doctors, nurses, counselors, dietitians, social workers, whoever it is that's part of the healthcare team, to come in and do what you do. And where government is, I think, catching up still is kind of, well, how do we approach that from a funding perspective? And I would argue that, I know that billions of dollars literally have been put into healthcare infrastructure. So we are seeing hospitals, clinics, renovations, upgrades in a way that we haven't seen for years and years. But when it comes to primary care, putting more attention and time into that is absolutely essential, because we have a great acute care system, we have a good primary care system, but by investing in the primary care system, we help with that preventative, lifelong approach to health, and keeping people out of facilities, keeping people away from the hospital as much as possible. So it's definitely needed. The community health center funding model, that's a place where government does directly invest. And despite not having an agreement anymore with the Greens, we're still moving forward on the work that we had committed to do with them around community health center governance and funding models, and being able to support communities that are moving ahead in that way. So that's a really long-winded way of saying that I think everything with respect to Beaufort is on the right track, and I'd be really pleased to meet with the society anytime. And then finally, there's some shifts and changes in nurse practitioner funding models that will be coming, policy work that is being done inside the ministry right now because of an interpretation letter of the Canada Health Act that all provincial health ministers have received with the way that nurse practitioners are paid. And so I don't know what that exactly will look like, but I think it will create better conditions for clinics like Beaufort.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks. It feels like a bit of a theme developing where you have communities sort of taking on, because we are the ones that are facing our community needs directly, and we also have champions in our community who want to take on this work. Mm-hmm. And so they do this heavy lifting, whether it's creating a healthcare hub or buying a forest or whatever else the community decides is its priorities, and then we wait for the province to go, oh God, that's a different model. How do we do this? And there's a bit of adaptation that needs to happen so that those services don't get entirely downloaded onto municipal governments, because we're the closest again to the work. People are like, can you pay for this? But all we have, as you know, is the property tax model, which leaves us quite limited in our spending authority. So I appreciate that. It sounds like, at least in the Ministry of Health, that work is happening to look to adapt to these different models of how we get things done close to the ground, because it seems to me the most efficient way to do some of these things.
I agree, and more durable in ways too, right? So there's always going to be that tension between senior, other levels of government telling you how things will be versus saying, no, this is our community. We know how we want to do it. We want to do it this way. And so that's good. That's a healthy tension in my view. But when the funding balance isn't there too, or, you know, having some, I guess, skin in the game is the way sometimes
Yeah.
I will describe
Yeah.
this, because we're seeing municipalities like Colwood and Surrey and Sicamous and other places that are investing some local tax dollars into this, and they've got that skin in the game.
Yeah.
And that gives them, you know, a real seat at the table, so to speak, and the ability to be able to really help direct the services in the best way possible for their communities.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Next up is our number 2 dam reconstruction project. And we have had, I think we've had numerous conversations with you about the struggle with our drinking water system, and the 2, well, there's 3 reservoirs, but 2 of them need imminent dam improvements. We did receive some funding, which I'm not going to remember the funding application. Can you remember the one we're waiting for? And we have, go ahead. Strategic Priorities Fund. So that's a provincial, is that a partnership one, or is that just the province? Does anybody know?
It's a partnership with Canada Community Building Fund, EDC, so I think that's all provincial.
Okay.
Probably, or something like that.
Yeah. And so we have done some further work on how we might mitigate the issue that our spillway is having. So again, we've come up with a new sort of community-driven design that's going to serve us better. But of course, the funding that we have in place may not cover the full costs, because as we all know, everything is so much more expensive than it was when we got the grant in, I'm going to say 2022. So any support we could get for that.
Yeah.
There's no point in the province and the federal government investing in a really awesome drinking water treatment facility, but then the upstream annihilates the treatment
absolutely.
facility.
And I know that persistence is your second name in Cumberland, and I would encourage you to continue to persist. I have spoken to the minister directly about this project, and will continue to do so. And yeah, please keep at it.
Keep doing
yeah.
it. Okay.
And I'm there to back you up all the way.
Awesome. Number 4 is our industrial lands. So we have had a servicing report done for our industrial lands. As you may know, we have the majority of the vacant industrial lands in the Comox Valley, if not far beyond. And they seem to be developing in a pretty good way. But the servicing that is required to, not just the initial servicing, but obviously once that servicing is in, it becomes the responsibility of the municipality. And when we looked at that study, it will be challenging for us to continue to serve, to pay for that infrastructure without dramatically increasing the tax rate out there in order to pay for the ongoing maintenance of those services, partly because it's separate from our community, which generally industrial lands are, but also because there's no services out there right now. Well, there's water, we've put in water, but there's no wastewater coming off that. At the same time, we have the potential to use our mine water as a geo-exchange project, so using the mine water to cool or heat depending on the demand of the industrial partner, and have some potential pilot project happening out there right now. And we did speak to the Minister of Jobs about support for industrial lands, and I understand there's now an industrial lands office that's been created or some such thing. Anyway, any ideas on how to do that development in a good, the whole purpose for us of developing our industrial lands was to offset our dependence on our residential tax base. And now we're realizing that if we tax the industrial lands like we need to, it's not going to be developed, and we're not, that equation just
Right.
is not going to function like we had hoped.
A little chicken and
And I
egg.
think that's not only the case for new development of all I think not only the case for development in industrial lands, but also all new development, because the cost of maintaining the infrastructure for anything is always more than what you can charge property taxes on and still have happy, healthy people living in your community. So, and a wide diversity of people living in your community. So, yeah, looking for any insight on the sort of, I know the province is focused on economic development for good reason, and any insights on that?
Yeah, thank you. I'll certainly give that some thought. I mean, I think you're right. It's initiatives that lie within the jobs ministry, like the jobs manufacturing
Yeah.
program. And the province, I think, like municipalities such as yours, really has its eye on those opportunities. Industrial lands are hard to come by everywhere, anywhere. And there is a chicken and egg situation here, which I
Yes.
appreciate. You need services in order to attract investors, but you need the investment and the tax revenue that comes from that in order to be able to sustain the infrastructure. And that is a challenge. And I don't, one of the things I'll think about too is just what I know of, and we can check in with the ministry around other communities that find themselves in the same, or a similar situation. But you've got 2 partners, or 3 partners really, when you think about the regional district, the other 2 cities, and the opportunities that Cumberland can provide because you have the industrial land space that could potentially be of benefit to the entire valley.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the
Mhm.
economic benefit analysis was, I don't remember the number. $1
Yeah.
billion, yeah.
Yeah.
It was $1 billion over 30 years was
Right.
the projected.
And have already
Economic.
attracted some pretty amazing businesses
Yeah.
out there
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that Cumberland is known for, which
Yeah.
is really also a kind of marketing advantage too, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's
Mhm.
potential there. And the benefit is far-reaching, not necessarily
Yeah.
for the village. And when you're a small village dependent on a residential tax
Yeah.
base, that's the conundrum all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like the benefit is benefiting the province and the region and
Mhm.
industry,
Mhm.
and not so much the actual corporation of the Village of Cumberland.
Right.
So that's just an ongoing.
Mm-hmm. Can you maybe tell me a little bit more about sort of like the Comox Valley approach right now around economic development and the sort of strategic priorities of where those.
Yeah, so that's part of, I think, the challenge in the Comox Valley is right now there is not a regional economic development service. And as far as I know, there's not an economic development service happening in any of the municipalities themselves to any, that's not off the side
Right.
of someone's desk. So that's a gap that we just haven't filled since we ended that service, and I don't think we have a good sense as a region right now what we want to do with that service and what the most effective way is. Is it one economic development service that works for all 3 of us? Is it everybody trying to have half a desk of somebody, or what does that look like? So right now our developer is providing that recruitment for our industrial lands. We are
Right.
at arm's length.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So
helpful
that's-
background.
Yeah, bit of background. And now on to the really challenging stuff. The Ministry of Transportation and Transit is doing design work for our interchange. So we're very excited that they are doing some design work around the interchange, and looks like now intersection of Cumberland Road and the connector as well. And we have met with staff, and they have assured us that we will see. I'm not sure exactly what their language was, but it was something like, we'll bring you designs when we have them. And I was like, hey, it'd be super great to like have a conversation before we make up the designs, because we're like driving through that intersection every day, sometimes multiple times, and we might have some insight for you. And so I think those designs are coming, but it would be really, I think there's a general theme, and the more time I spend at the regional district, the more I hear about challenges with the Ministry of Transportation and the opportunity for ministry staff to collaborate with local governments. And it's, again, that the people on the ground probably know what's best. The ministry staff have all the intel on design standards and safety and all that good stuff. Surely there's a way those two can feed each other. And so there's a few things we're working on. Obviously, the active transportation route is a going concern for us. We fairly regularly hear from cyclists who have near-death experiences on their way to work. We do have people who are riding, cycling on that connector year-round to get to their work. Many of them, I think a few of them, work for the regional district. So they are seeing firsthand just the danger. And so one of the things we've been requesting from staff is increased shoulder cleaning especially through the winter months when the gravel and the sand and all the other bits of things are there to make that route a little safer. And also the ministry wants consultation on how we manage our roads that connect to their roads. So Cumberland Road comes off the connector. I like how I just show you with my arms. Cumberland Road comes off the connector and goes around a corner, and that's the primary route. So people leave Cumberland, they cross the road at Cumberland Road, and they go down into the heart of the city of Courtenay. And that road goes from, the connector is Ministry of Transportation, and then it's Village of Cumberland, and then it's Regional District, and then it's City of Courtenay. So we get all the fun collaboration opportunities there, just like we do on Comox Lake Road, where we have multiple jurisdiction on one road. And so the City of Courtenay has built active transportation routes as far as their road goes, and then the road's the same, but there's no painted lines that say that it's an active travel area. And then the corner is a bit too narrow, but still probably doable if we just could paint the lines and signal to people that this is a bike lane. Then people would stop driving probably in the shoulder of the roadway. And I think that is a simple solution that the ministry could do with very little cost. It's just paint on a road to kind of hold us over and keep people safer while we try and find the off-road or off-connector solution to active travel. That was a long description, but any tips on Ministry of Transportation?
And the response from the ministry with respect to the painting of lines, and even though it doesn't meet the road standards for the width, what?
Haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
What I have been told by people who have had this conversation in previous iterations is that the standards, the road standards, don't meet the Ministry of Transportation's parameters for having active travel. So it's a risk mitigation issue for them, I think.
I think you're
right. If they say this is active travel and then somebody gets hit, they're going to be like, whoa, you told me it was, I don't know what that looks like or how to get around it.
Okay, so lots in there. Love
Sorry.
it. No, don't apologize. So first of all, you've met with Kellen,
Yes.
correct? And does the Ministry of Transportation and Transit come to council meetings or COW meetings ever?
I've never seen them.
So
Should we
my
invite
my
them?
my advice, yeah, absolutely. Wearing my former Tofino mayor hat, we have the Ministry of Transportation come out once a year and have a session with council just to talk about projects that are underway, what's going on, the opportunity to ask questions and all of that. With respect to the design work that they're doing right now, I think in the past, the Ministry of Transportation, they've gone about doing their work. And so they're getting their shelf-ready plans too. So when they internally inside the ministry have an opportunity to get money, then they can move ahead with the improvements. And they've got the drawings all done and they're ready to go. What I see now, again, just coming back to community engagement, people see them, it's visible, they're like, hey, what's going on? We want to know. And so it might be a matter of just increasing those communications. And something you could talk to Kellen and Mike Pearson about is at the right time with enough things to talk about, do you want to host a community open house and have I can't commit on their behalf, of course, but I have seen that done in other communities before where, there's enough going on or there's a big project going on. Like, for example, right now in Port Alberni, there's a massive roundabout that's being built. And as they led up to all that work, I mean, these things take years, but as they led up to that work, they had an engagement website and they had the opportunity. They went to the regional district, they talked about it and, have that opportunity for you to ask all the questions and community members to be able to ask the questions and to understand how they make some of the decisions. So you're getting everything design ready. What happens inside the ministry for when do you get the money? How do you get the money?
Yeah.
Or, talk to us about the safety risks and your trade-offs that you're making between what the standards you have are and what we feel as a community. Like, we feel like this should be kind of easy, right? Just put some paint on there. And they will have an explanation for why they do or don't. You may or may not agree. But at least you get to gain that kind of understanding, which I think is really important. With respect to the multi-jurisdictional nature of the road, this is something I think is really hard for people to see where you're like, the paint stops here or the sidewalk stops here. And I will just say from a kind of a practicality perspective, when we faced this issue on the West Coast, we have a road that travels through the district of Tofino. It's provincial, it's the regional district, it's the national park. And we hauled everyone in the room and just said, come on, can we approach this a little bit differently? And, maybe we stepped outside of the normal kind of bounds maybe and did things a little different way. But in that case, the district of Tofino just decided to take something on behalf of the regional district and said, we're just going to do it. So we'll raise the money, we'll procure, we'll execute, and we'll all benefit from it. But not everybody's in the position to do that. But it was one way we kind of got around because if we waited, we might have had a bike lane that went to here and another one that went to here
Exactly.
and nothing in the middle. And we're like, well, we
Yeah.
need to do that last kilometer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those can be tough conversations too.
Yeah,
so.
and we have started that conversation within the regional district.
Yeah.
It's just in its infancy, but I really
Yeah.
like the idea of actually asking Mike and Kellen to come and do especially when they do the intercrange design, to actually do an open house so
Yeah,
the
show
community has a
people-
chance.
Yeah, what they're
Yeah, to
thinking.
give
And,
some-
sometimes maybe the reluctance a little bit is like, well, if we show you all of these things, you're going to think we're going to do it next month.
Yeah.
And we're not. And so
Yeah.
they're also, so
Managing
your help managing
expectations.
expectations too is probably a good idea. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we would talk about things like maintenance, brushing, dusting, all of those things, and we would have these conversations. And I remember learning a lot about standards and the relationship with the contractor. So, what the ministry does versus what the contractor does, what those standards are, how they monitor them and
Yeah.
ensure that it is being met. And your feedback gets taken very seriously by the Ministry of Transportation. I know that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it could be an issue
Yeah.
with the contractor or something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just the expectation has not been set.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Council, does anybody have anything else they would like to add to any of those or anything else?
It's nice to see you.
Thanks, likewise.
Just maybe on the healthcare aspect, we are disappointed to see the loss
Yeah.
of that long-term facility, but
Or the pause, I'll call
the
it. but-
pause on it.
Yeah.
But it is nice to see a more fulsome approach in keeping people within their houses. We all know how much brick and mortar, just going out to the treatment plant, costs, and people are more comfortable at home quite often. And not every family is in a position to be able to provide that personal care, but I think in a smaller community, we personally see a lot of members and older members of the community benefit from, nurse practitioners coming into the
Right.
house where that doesn't cost, and that doesn't cost as much as putting in bricks and mortar,
Yeah.
and that goes a long way. So thank you for that perspective. I just wanted to bring that part up.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I actually have a friend whose dad has cancer, and he's at home doing some treatment. And so what happens is the family becomes the primary care provider, and they've looked for assistance, and I don't know what that assistance is called, but when they come,
Like home support.
the home support.
Better at home. Yeah.
But the model is a start. They get, but it's 3 hours a week on their schedule. So the wife is unable to schedule them when she needs them.
Right.
She has to schedule all her things around when they come. And I think that can be, I know what we went through with my dad being palliative at home. It's very challenging you have certain things where you have a doctor's appointment or you have something, you have somewhere you have to be, and you can't leave your person. And that care is pretty limited at 3 hours a week. Yeah. I neglected to talk about policing.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about
So
policing.
let's talk about policing. As you know, we're going to slide right under 5,000 with this census because we're all sending people to live elsewhere for the summer. But if we didn't slide under that 5,000, we will face an extraordinary increase in our annual budget costs for policing. And just for the general information for anyone who's listening to this, right now we pay 30% of the cost of policing in the region, in our area, and when we hit 5,000, that goes to paying 70% of the cost. We are not adding new police officers. We are just shifting who pays for the existing officers already serving this area from the province to the municipality. And so we've had several meetings with the ministry. We've had meetings to try and change that model because that model is clearly broken. And the only number that's in, as far as I can understand from all the many meetings and questions I've asked, is that the only number that's in the legislation on transitions is the 5,000 number. So when you hit 5,000, you go from paying 30% to 70%, and then at 15,000, you go to 90% and so on. But only the 5,000 number is in the legislation. And it would be great if that legislation instead said, when you hit 5,000, you go from paying 30% to paying 50%, say, or 45%, or depending on the number of people over 5,000 you are, there's some calculation or some such procedure, rather than you have 5,001 people and now your costs have gone from $400,000 a year to $1.5 million overnight. And the complicating factor of small communities preparing for that transition is we start to stockpile our money to ease that tax increase for our residents. And so we're not doing other things with that money. We could be, fixing a council chambers or, I don't know, doing other things with our money, but we are instead socking it away so that our residents don't face a doubling of their taxes. Anyway, that was a long story, and you know all that. any tips on how we get that legislation changed so that the next community facing that transition does not have to go through this and can be more flexible in their budgeting in the years leading to that. Yeah, and then it's still, when we have our conversations with staff in the ministry, it's very much, well, when you get there, we'll have the conversation and we'll negotiate how many officers you need to pay for and what that's going to look like. That doesn't allow us to do proper budgeting or planning, right? Because we don't know. We won't know what the census says until whenever it comes out in 2027 probably. And then are we going to be responsible for paying for 2026 because we were clearly over 5,000 there? Or does that start in 2027? And who decides who's included in the negotiation for how many officers we should pay for? And what does that look like and all that good stuff? And the ministry continues to be very vague on that. And I think intentionally, because they want to look at the individual situation, but it also just creates this kind of black hole for planning purposes, or overcompensating for planning.
I think you've outlined the problem really well.
Can you just go fix
If you if your residents were paying like $100 quarterly for utilities, and then suddenly they had to pay $300, they would be up in arms. And you're in the same situation. To make the jump from 30 to 70% is huge. And it was heard loud and clear during the Police Act review that a more graduated system would be better for planning and feel more fair as well. I know that message has been heard, it's been received, but the work to totally transform the Police Act hasn't happened yet. And so it's kind of, we're all waiting for that to happen so those conversations can happen. And the work that you are doing with other municipalities that are in similar situations, Gibson's, Pemberton,
Bowen,
yeah,
and it starts with an S, and it's in the northern part of the province, and I can't remember.
somewhere there.
I always want to say Sayward, but it's not Sayward.
Okay.
Sayward's nowhere close. They're safe.
But that work that you do together to lobby government and the ministry is really good, and keep it up.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's like you care a lot about childcare until your kid goes into school, and then you don't care about childcare as much. Not to say that you don't understand it's not important for everybody, but it's not hitting you personally. It's not impacting you personally. Kind of the same with this, right?
Yeah.
So you make that transition past 5,000 at some point, you get into the point where you're paying the 70%, and you kind of forget about it. And then other communities will face this too. So the work you do now to continue to lobby for this and ask government to reconsider how this is, how the funding formula works, it's really important. So I would definitely advise you to do that. And I know because they've told you that, yes, they absolutely are willing to work with you once you get to the 5,000 point, and have with other communities where it's not a big jump all of a sudden. So it doesn't feel great to be told, oh yeah, just wait, don't worry, we got you. When you're like, yeah, but your point, actually I haven't really heard it expressed this way before, because your points were really well taken, that you're socking away all of this money, you could be using it on something else. And no doubt you will if you have the opportunity to, but it's sitting there in reserves until such a point as it might be needed and will be needed. And then of course we had a brief conversation before around the detachment.
Yes.
And so there actually might be something to spend it on.
Yeah.
Depending on when the detachment is built. Yeah.
Yeah, just some security for transitioning communities.
Absolutely.
Are you aware of the timeline of changing the act? Because that's
I
a
am not.
federal thing with a provincial team, or how is that? How
The
does that
provincial
work?
police. I'm talking about provincial legislation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and no, I'm not aware.
Yeah.
Just a question, or could you refer us, maybe not online now, but to other communities that have perhaps negotiated once they hit that 5,000?
Yeah, sure. Yep,
Because that would be
absolutely.
helpful to speak
Yep,
with them and
I'll
see
find out.
what that might have looked like, because
Yep.
obviously it's not always in the public peer, right? But it would be.
You're right. Okay.
Kind
Yeah,
of
and
be
we'll
I
do
think
that.
I think it's only been since like 2020, where they've started to
It
graduate
is correct.
people.
Since 2020. So we'll we'll get a list of communities that
Yeah.
have gone through this process quite recently. Fernie might be one of them, but
Yeah.
yeah. Duncan.
Duncan maybe, yeah, because Duncan went over and went back and went, yeah.
Thank you.
You could always give up part of Cumberland. I'm totally joking. I'm just totally joking.
You're in the regional district now for just one census.
Just for one, yeah.
One
one
census.
census.
Yeah. Now I'm just envisioning who on the map could he, but we
Camp
would
Road's an
never
easy
want to
cutoff.
do that. Yeah, all the that would do it. That would do it. Yeah. Thank you for that. Any other?
No, I expect you may well say something like this in your wrap up, but I just wanted to recognise, thank you, and recognise you don't have to do this. To sit here as both a MLA and a minister, to sit here in a public recorded broadcast forum and answer these questions, and how grateful I am for that availability. And I hope that all MLAs take that lead in the future. As well. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your words, but I think it's a responsibility that I have as your MLA and elected official to be able to come to you and talk to you about these things. And I appreciate the work you put into bringing this list together, giving it to me well in advance so that I could chase down what information I can to bring to you. And I have some follow-ups to bring to you as well. But I just want to say thank you for your leadership. I know we're coming in, in a few months, we'll be in that municipal election season. Everything changes a bit. So this is a good time to be able to talk, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, it's the cycle of, you come in fresh in the beginning of the term with all your priorities, and then at this time you look at the list of the things that are still outstanding and going, ugh.
There's a lot still to do, but you've done a lot.
Yeah.
And my reflection after leaving local government was that you join a council and you have the opportunity to finish things that other people started and to start things that other people will finish.
Yeah.
And it's very, very rare you have the opportunity to start
start
and
and
finish
finish.
something,
Yeah.
depending on how long you last. Yeah.
Wastewater treatment plant.
There you go.
Still here.
Yeah.
Not leaving.
We'll have to say it's been disappointing to not receive any money for housing in the last
Yeah.
term. So that's just something, like, we've seen all in our riding, most
Yeah.
people receive something except for Cumberland, so that's been very
Cumberland and
disappointing.
Denman Island.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
it's
Denman,
true.
and Denman, yes.
No, I
It's been
I-
a struggle in
I
the
hear
community
you.
to try to convince these people how great this is. And 3 different times we had to go back to people. And
Yeah.
the 3rd time we had to tell them that we're going to put a whole other story on top so everybody
Yeah.
can look even further. So governing through those things is very difficult.
Yeah.
And so to constantly just no. And kind of same thing with the hub. I sat
Yeah,
along-
it feels
I sat on the
demoralizing.
board for a long time, and I talked about that for a very long time.
Yeah.
And convincing the region that it was a good idea and this is what we got to do. And I can't say how excited I was the entire time. And then to find this out later after my time on the board, it's just like, what? Oh man, I spent a very long time, sharing, combining it.
I hear you loud and clear, and at UBCM, if you're meeting with the housing minister, if you're meeting with Island Health, I think having a constructive conversation about relationships and communication, and we all find ourselves in difficult situations sometimes where events that are beyond our control mean things happen and we have to share bad news and disappointing news. But it feels particularly hard when I know how hard you worked, particularly on the housing, right? I'm less familiar with the hub conversation, but with the housing conversation, I've watched every single iteration of this project move forward and what you went through in order to talk to the community about adding more density to that site is a huge thing for a small village like Cumberland. So I take it really seriously.
Yeah, and the thing that's part of the thing that's concerning about the even if it's a wait and see game, is that it's not our land, it's Island
Yeah.
Health land. So we have a lease arrangement.
Right.
That expires.
Yeah.
And we also, as part of the project, we're providing for employee units for Island Health, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you know they need those.
Yeah.
So that partnership is also like, oh, okay, now we're managing that partnership, which was not not a straightforward, not a straight line to begin with. So, yeah.
I just have a question, because some of the provincial housing initiatives over the years and the federal ones, they don't always seem completely aligned. And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you foresee a little bit more synergy between the feds and the province as far as like, okay, we can apply for this project and the criteria remain the same versus some ones that Industry Canada plays a bigger role, and let's use innovative materials, and that's a little bit of a different focus and lens on it than the province, which wants to concentrate on affordable housing and providing spaces for Island Health, for example.
That is such a good question. And the challenge, in part, I think, is that a provincial government will make decisions about how it wants to shape a funding program. Meanwhile, a federal government of perhaps a different political stripe with some different priorities will shape its program the way that it does. And municipalities and local governments are doing, their version too. It's, why is the council grant process different in Courtenay, Cumberland, and Comox? Why can't you guys make it all the same? We live here. Where I think your question is particularly salient, though, is around the financing and the different approaches that CMHC and the federal government have used to financing affordable housing projects versus what BC Housing does. And again, like making that opinion and question known to BC Housing and kind of pressing, and when you're meeting with the housing minister, once again, just talking about this, and our particular housing minister right now will certainly understand, having been a city councillor herself, that it's like, just makes it that much harder.
I appreciate
right?
the difficulties, and it just
Yeah.
seems there's a bit of an inefficiency
I
in
agree.
the application process
I
that
agree.
would be good
Yeah.
for everybody if it were a bit
I
more
agree. So
closely aligned.
maybe the question for governments is like, well, if you're trying to get your permitting timelines and requirements together for, oil and gas and mines, like, maybe we could do the same when it comes to financing affordable housing projects, because we're all doing it for the same reason, right? We're all
Yeah.
in it for the same reason, but we need more alignment. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Good question.
Appreciate
The affordable housing lobby is not as strong, I think.
As oil and gas. Mining? Yeah.
Sorry.
Not as revenue generator.
But we sure
okay.
need it. It is
Yeah.
the foundation of our communities,
It is
having a
the
place to live.
foundation.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, then I guess we can let you go.
Thanks, everybody.
it. Thanks so
Thank you
much.
so much for being
Yeah.
here, for making time, and for helping us cut our big ribbon.
Yeah, and
this
congratulations
morning,
again. What an
and
amazing
seeing our,
thing to
our
celebrate.
fabulous new facility. Yeah, and for
Okay.
being on the journey with us along the way. And yeah,
It is my pleasure.
it's a really great thing.
All right.
that's done.
Good luck
Thank
with
you
the rest of the
very much.
meeting.
We'll see you soon.
Nice to see
And
everybody.
we'll just take a 10-minute break until our next delegate. Okay. We're all on.
Use yours.
Are you recording me?
Councillor Ward, where did he go?
I won't be, but
Oh.
You are recording? Okay. All right.
he's busy.
Okay.
Whoever's working on it, see you tonight.
I have bad
He's like,
memories.
oh, this is gonna be so great.
Remember the very
Make sure
first
that thing works downstream.
Oh, okay.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, so I got to speak into this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Take your time now.
Welcome back. Next up on the agenda is a delegation from the United Riders of Cumberland. Kevin, are you introducing? Or
Yeah, I'll do a brief introduction. So Dougal will present in a moment, but the background to this is their annual report as part of their community service partnership agreement. So we've just finished year 2 of a 4-year agreement with UROC, and this is a 2-part agreement. Some of the funds, I think about $23,000 of the funds are earmarked for general UROC operations in support of their broader land use or land access agreements they have with private landowners. And then the other, I guess about 40% of the funds that the village provides are directly in support of maintenance of trails on village properties, including the Cumberland Community Forest. So yeah, we work with UROC throughout the year on these on those maintenance, the maintenance side of the agreement, as well as on some separate, smaller kind of side contracts that they take on for special projects. So last year that was a major reroute on the Dodge City Downhill Trail. This year they're also doing a reroute to avoid users crossing one of the dams at Allen Lake. Yeah, and then in addition to this agreement with UROC, we also are in a MOU with them for the Cumberland Forest Land Strategy Project, a partnership also with the Community Forest Society and Comox Valley Land Trust, which, yeah, is active and we're well into. We're also using that on some flood recovery and responding with trying to develop some both short-term and long-term plans in response to the I guess washout adjacent to the bridge in the Cumberland Community Forest along Perseverance Creek. So with that, I'll pass it over to Dougal.
Thanks for being here, Dougal. You've got a presentation. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
and I'm
you.
going to fly through it.
Okay.
We're going to do a little update on where we're at, what we're going to try and do, and what we've done.
Excellent.
So thanks for having us. Appreciate being here. I'd like to quickly, respectfully acknowledge that we're gathered here today on the unceded territory of the Comox First Nations, the traditional keepers of this land. So we came last year and we showed you our strategic plan. So I'm just going to put this up there to give you a few reminders on some of our pillars, some of our strategic goals. Have a read of the mission, the vision, and the values. I think those are the most important things. To ensure continued access to the diverse, evolving, and well-managed trail network. Our vision is a memorable trail experience for all. For all. And our values is stewardship, user experience, relationships, and collaboration, inclusivity. And then I wanted to jump down to some of those strategic goals and just pick up some of those green words there, the land access agreement, relationships, board and governance, financial management, working with volunteers, all of those sorts of factors, and some of those factors will be coming out in my talk. So I just want to make sure that we're relating to what we're trying to achieve with the strategic plan. The coupled alongside the strategic plan, we have the Trail Network Strategic Plan, which is something that I wrote back in 2022. It was a 3 to 5 year life. We're currently revising that, updating that. It's a living document. It has sort of lived and breathed a little bit through its life for the last few years. And we've managed to check off a lot of those boxes in that trail strategic plan. But I want to draw your attention to the black circles in the center there, number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, maintain and enhance an existing high-quality network of trails, optimize the trail network to create the best possible user experience and reduce the risk of user conflict. Those are 1, 2, 3. And then there's a few other objectives off that, which is designations, administering the land access agreement, create sustainable trail network, maintain the network to the best of our ability, work with the Village of Cumberland, collaborate, harmonize, reduce conflict, all of those sorts of factors. So I wanted just to highlight those, that they will be coming out in this few moments in this conversation. So a little overview on our partnerships. We're in partnership with the Village of Cumberland. We steward the trail network. A lot of the trail network spills out further beyond the Village of Cumberland lands. So we're also in partnership with long-standing access agreements with Mosaic Forest Management and Manulife Investment Management. So that three-way relationship is written up with an MOU, and we maintain that to the highest standard we can. The trail network remains a community-built asset, and it supports a number of things, but one of the things that interests me there is that the network was built by this community. A lot of the people who still live here are those that built that network. They've invested thousands of hours and effort into that network, and we're here to look after it. We're here to make sure it still flows and works, and that's something that's really important, because you could arguably say that the community members are also partners in this whole deal. So we're looking to look after that and protect that for as long as we can. So recreation and well-being, stewardship, these are some of the things that I wanted to point out. It's a platform for our events and races. We conduct a bunch of community programs, and there's arguably quite a lot of economic development that comes out of it. The trail network is open 365 days a year, 24/7. It's never closed. That's a pretty cool thing. Trail stewardship. Over the past year, we've maintained a strong focus on trail stewardship. We've done over 100 trail days out in the network. That's broken up from local builders and volunteers, the groups of builders that go out there together and work on trails. That's local businesses supporting us and coming out for a trail day. That's public trail days that we announce that we allow people to come out, and sometimes you get hundreds of people coming out and doing a trail work. We do youth programs in partnership with the Community School Society and the Comox Valley Schools, and of course the UROC Trail Crew goes out every day. We have a trail day every Friday, and volunteers go out with those trail crew members all the time. So in terms of a community engagement and trail stewardship, we're really flying the flag. We're right up there. Over 100 trail days a year. Community engagement, well, UROC, when I started in 2019, we had 700 members, where we've been lingering around the 2,500 members for the last 3 or 4 years. We're really trying to break that 3,000 number. We think this might be the year. We think this might be the year. It's not a lot of money to become a member, but we are a small community. Cumberland is 4,700 people. The Comox Valley is 70,000, 75,000. So for 3,000 people to support us and be members, that's not to count all those who use the network and they aren't members, right? Programming includes youth rides, school partnerships, school events, women's rides, social events. We are working heavily on adaptive access to the trails, inclusive. So all of these factors are key to our community engagement. We feel that UROC's organizational health has a strong heartbeat right now. We're liked. We've just done a recruitment process for our replacement board of directors that are coming on, and the level of firepower that those resumes and those applications were phenomenal. And that tells us that we must be in a good place. We must be in a pretty healthy spot. We had a lot of applications, so that was pretty cool. All community members. We conduct numerous events each year, and I know that this is a hot topic, but we park ourselves in the corner of the park there, and we quietly get on with our well-being business, and we do our thing. We don't trash the D, but we have a nice suite of events that we put on, and I think it's worth highlighting that some of those events have been around for 20, 25 years. the 12 Hours of Cumberland, been around for a long time. So these are long-standing events. And then also it's worth highlighting that our suite of events, the UROC events, they speak to kids, they speak to women, they speak to mixed experts, they speak to people who want to ride their bikes as a cross-country adventure, they speak to people who want to go out for fun, and they speak to people who are absolute experts in riding bikes and they want to shred and race hard. Okay, so our suite of events crosses all of the different varieties there. And then, of course, we support all the local events that come, the local events being the Cumby, the Devil's Ladder, the Perseverance Trail Run, and then those third-party visiting events, the BC Bike Race, MOMAR, and some of those other events that do trash the D, the ones that are in there causing so. But it's worth highlighting that we're a fit, healthy, fun-loving, competitive community, and the Trail Network is the hub of that. It's the place where we all enjoy it. So the economic factor there, we'd love to lay claim that all of these businesses are here because of the trails. I mean, that wouldn't be fair. But when you look at it, Front Runners, Forbidden Bikes, Noble Wheels, Coast Surf, bike stores. Why is the Love's Ice Cream store so busy every year? Because everyone's here having fun, right? So we would love to lay claim that having all of these beautiful amenities and assets in the community does mean that people want to come here and people want to enjoy it. So we do have some economic impact. Trail development. So this is sort of reaching into the trail strategic plan. We want to evolve and overhaul existing trails. That's a big thing for us right now. We've put in a lot of, in the far reaches of the network, we've put in a lot of new stuff, but we've also decommissioned stuff at the same time. And a lot of the new trails that we've put in have been very strategically placed, and we've worked out why there's a rationale for them to be there. So we have built some new trails, but we really are focusing on overhauling existing trails. We've created connections between these zones that we've created. We've created user zones. There's distinct places that the runners like to go to. There's distinct places that the bikers like to go to. And there's distinct places where walkers and hikers like to go to. And we've lent into that. We've worked out what bridges need to be replaced, what connections need to be made. We've counted how many people are going into the network, and we've seen where the hot spots are and where we need to create more flow and create more spread out in the network. The network, and I'll show you some slides later on, but the network has ever increased, a crazy percentage every year on year on year. For example, in 2019, we were down in the 100,000s of visitors to the network. We're way up at the 300,000 mark now. Okay, so we've making all of these connections and doing all of this trail development. There has been some science to it. It's not just a matter of people going in there and whacking in new trails. We've worked with Kevin and Tyler and the Village of Cumberland doing some smart projects, and it's been really exciting. We've been developing our adaptive experience for those adaptive riders, and that's the three-wheeled craft as well as the e-bike craft, and as well as more wheeled craft. And we've been editing our existing trails to create that experience for people. We're not been building specific adaptive trails, which is very prescriptive and very complex to do. But we've had some massive success. And we're about to claim that we're the most trails adaptive ready in BC, which is pretty cool. We're about 60, 65 trails that are adaptive ready for mountain bike adaptive craft, not wheelchairs. Yeah. Okay. We've put in some marquee projects over the last few years. The Trail Strategic Plan asked us to build some pretty cool projects, and we went out and got some funding. You can see the Epic 979 is up there. That's a 37-kilometer backcountry loop that we've created with 4 different experiences to end that experience with. And it's a full-day adventure. If you go out there running or you go out there on your regular bike, it's going to take you a full day to do this. If you do it on an e-bike, it still takes you 3 or 4 hours to do. But what this is there is actually an epic tourism, aspect to it. Now, we don't market, we don't sell ourselves for tourism. That just happens naturally because we're such a cool network. But we have put in this epic, and there is epic people who travel around the world seeking out epic experiences, which has to be an over 34-kilometer experience. Well, we've just put one in, and it's going to be pretty cool. We've also worked on our Blue Square experience, and the Blue Square is the designation of intermediate riders to your average rider, your general person who can go for a bike ride, right? And they want to enjoy a nice experience. So we've invested a lot of time and a lot of effort into that medium, and we've created a really exciting network of Blue Square trails within the network that is affording that ability. We've put in a lot of skills and development trails. There's a big cry for progression right now in trail building, and we can build progressive trails that are still all user. So we've been working on some of that as well. We've eased traffic around the migration routes. We've been taking data on that migration, the western toad migration. We've been taking data for the last 5 or 6 years, and we've found the common routes that the toads like to go. We know a lot more information now. We've put some science behind it, and we've started working out what sensible strategic trails would we do to build or move or create ways of getting traffic to go this way around Allen Lake or this way around Allen Lake, dependent on which way the migration is going. So we can move some of those 300,000 users every year away from the migration and let nature take its course. So we're working on that right now. It's been pretty exciting. And of course, we always continue to work on unsanctioned trail building. It's something that does happen sometimes. Desire lines get created. People want to build a jump. People want to go and, like, I don't want to walk this way, I want to walk this way. We've been working very hard on eradicating that as best we can. And I'd like to say we're 99% there. There's 1 or 2 characters who are a little bit harder to manage, but we're getting there. It's going well. So what are the priorities? I mean, that's a sort of an update of what we've been up to for the last year since we last saw you. But what are the priorities now? What are we looking forward to doing? Well, we want to continue our hard work keeping the land access term alive and keeping that well, and we've got that signed up with Mosaic and Manulife and with the MOU with Village of Cumberland. So that's locked in, and we're just keeping that as healthy as possible. We want to deliver on our strategic plan. That is still a main focus. So sure, we're saying we've achieved all of these things, but that doesn't take away our focus from still pushing. And that strategic plan is a living, live document which we update regularly, as with the Trail Strategic Plan. We'll continue to maintain and do smart, sustainable, relevant trail development, which is robust. It's harmonizing the network. It's friendly. We're going to create a friendly network. We don't want somewhere where someone comes to visit and they get told off for being there. We want people to say hi. We're trying to improve that trail etiquette between users as well. So we've been working quite hard on that. Reduce impact on habitat and ecological values. Let's not build trails in waterways, or let's build sensible bridges across waterways, and let's not go through mosslands or rocky outcrops. These are great places to easily build a trail, but let's not do that. Let's look for other solutions. So that's something that we've been focusing on pretty hard. Of course, the recovery work from that awful storm that happened on January 30th, the Perseverance Creek got a beating. Well, let me tell you that a lot of the rest of the network got a beating as well. We've been working blimmin' hard getting it back up to scratch. There was a few things that happened there, but a really big focus is that Perseverance Creek area. It's an in for a lot of people, and it's an out for a lot of other people, and we need to come up with some solutions and work ahead with that. So we're at the table, and we're enjoying that work. It's always been on the cards, but the weather decided to tell us, let's do it now. So that's a big focus. The important work of this Cumberland Land Strategy, in partnership with Village of Cumberland, the CVLT and CCFS, which Kevin mentioned at the beginning there, is really exciting work. There's some things happening out there that's imminent, and that's going to change a few things with some pretty heavy documents. But what's really exciting and really cool is that we're all sitting around the table, we're all getting along, we're all friends, and we're going to work out what the best solutions are for for now, tomorrow, and for way ahead of tomorrow. Because these trails will outlive us, right? They're here forever, we hope. We're focusing on the Adaptive Trails program. We've got it to a place where it's a recognized thing, and we've recruited a team. We're building a team, and we're going to put a pretty big deal together. It's coming, but it's all in the pipeline. This is something that we're focusing on. And to continue to work with our partners and stakeholders, keeping Cumberland a leading trail network. And that stakeholders, I remind you at the beginning, I said, let's not forget that the community is considered a stakeholder. So we're going to keep working hard for our community, keep working hard for our stakeholders and partners, and keep delivering on what we've got. So every year, this is the exciting moment where I get to show you the heat map. I know you like this. So I'm going to show you 2020.
Oh, wow.
And that's and what I want to show you here is just look how the darker red and thicker red it is, the busier that trail is. Okay, so in this heat map, you'll see that there's a lot of black spaces in between a lot of these very deep red spaces, right? So that's a network that's really congested. That's a network that's got a lot of conflict going on. That's a network that's seeing a lot of different directions, right? And then there's a lot of these black spaces in between that you can see little blue lines and little green lines and stuff. And that's trails, but they're not being used, right? So what we did, and you can also see that a lot of heat comes out of Cumberland and a lot of heat comes along the lake road there. So like this is the people who are accessing. Now this is only out of Trail Forks. Not everybody uses Trail Forks, so it's not wholly accurate, but it's a really good indication. All right, so that's 2020. Let's have a look at last week. Okay? So a lot of those little slightly green lines are now much darker, or sorry, much brighter and being used. And a lot of those really thick red lines are not as thick anymore. They're slightly less thick. But you can see the corridors of where people are coming in and coming out. And you can see the corridor of the climbing trail. And you can see the corridor of Vanilla. I don't know if you know the trail names and where they all are, but those that do, those are the thick red lines. So that tells us that the Blue Square experience is working. The climbing trail has been a raving success. The entry and exit and the connectivity and the harmonization and the reduction of conflict is really starting to work. And it's taken 6 years to do. We're not finished yet. So I'll leave it at that and say thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And while you've got that up there, that's also an increase in users of,
Oh, yeah.
of 200,000 or something.
Yeah.
Between the first and the second.
I'd like to say that that's a heavily buttered piece of toast, 340K. It's a little less than that, but we had a trail counter vandalized, and the one down in Perseverance Creek disappeared. Okay, and it wasn't from the flooding. They're $700 each. It wasn't from the flooding, but it disappeared. It's gone. Who knows where it went?
Yeah.
But that didn't give us an accurate number. So what I did, why 340K is up there, is what I did was I took averages from previous years, and then I looked at percentage increases, and then I made a valued guesstimation. And I will say that 340 is a little rich. It's probably just over 300,000. But when it's 120,000 in 2020,
Yeah.
COVID came in and gave us a huge increase in trail users. And they've all stuck around, all those trail users. They all bought their bike or they bought their running shoes. And they're all still going out there. But, you know, a lot of people have moved to the Comox Valley, and a lot of people are, you know, like tourism and all of these different factors are all weighing in on why we're seeing so many more uses. Now, and also this is something that I want to highlight. This is uses. So,
Yeah.
for example, Vicki, you're going in every day, so you are one in, one out.
Yeah.
That number at the entry exit points gets divided, so it just gives you the one use, right?
It's
But
not counting my dog, though, right?
it'll count your dog, but I mean,
Depending on the size of the dog.
if it goes through the trigger, it'll count your dog. But a bear and a cougar, they're still trail users, right?
They are.
You know?
They should be counted too.
Let's be
Dougal,
fair.
for
Like
sure.
they're still removing a rock or braiding a trail, or
They probably are.
you know, like, or they're still creating animal tracks and giving
Yeah.
us rogue trails that we have to deal with, right? Okay, but it's a reality. They're still
Yeah.
a user, right?
Yeah.
And if we're maintaining the trails, we're maintaining the trails for robustness and sustainability and user. But it's pretty staggering, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Over 6 years, we've gone up a couple 100,000 uses.
Yeah.
All right.
But just the way that's been spread through the network, because that's one of my questions is like, at what number do you need to, how far can you expand? Is there a limit to that expansion? And I just am curious about that. The users, you're spreading them out well, but there's just going to be more and more. It's an awesome asset. Why would people
That's
not
possibly
come?
true, but there's going to be more and more houses.
Yeah,
There's going to be more and more people visiting.
yeah,
You know, we're not stopping making babies.
no.
So these are
Not
realities, all right? But I would flip it, and I would say, okay, yeah, there are more people out there, but how many conflict experiences have you
Way
had
less.
lately? Way less,
less.
right?
Yeah.
So if the network's handling it, and then also you asked in that question, like what more expansion can we do? Well, forestry are cool. They're letting us do, you know, mostly if we've got a good rationale and a good reason, they're approving stuff, right?
Okay.
But we don't want to be going to them every year and saying, hey, we want to build 5 more new
Right.
trails. It's not sustainable. And then at what point does it become too much maintenance?
Yeah.
We have to hire more people, and we don't have that much money. You know, we're investing $250,000 a year into trail maintenance and management, right, every year. So in the last 10 years, it's $2.5 million,
Yeah.
right? So at what point does it reach maximum? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're not going to stop building houses. We're not going to stop people visiting. But what we have done is we have reduced conflict, and we've made a more flowing, more
Yeah.
workable network. The network was built by all of the community, right? And it was all these individuals going in and building their individual project, their individual trail.
Yeah.
And then I came along and said, okay, well, let's get all of these parcels of trails and make them talk to each other and relate to each other and designate them correctly, so that if you join that trail up there and you end down here, you're getting one great experience. You're not going into a blue square trail, into a double black diamond trail,
Right,
into,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So we've organized a trail. This organic beast has had some planning applied to it, and we've
Yeah.
made it better. So I'll say it again. Sure, at what point do we get to a crescendo? But have we had more conflict?
Yeah.
No.
No. No,
So-
good job.
We're doing all right.
Yeah.
Cumberland is doing all right.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate that, that the network is handling the increased use in
Yeah.
a good way.
Yeah. And I mean, remember, couple that with the fact that it's a positive space. You're forest bathing. You're going in there for well-being. People are there because they want to have an experience. And my big mission, and I've said it to you every year, my big mission in this job, in this role, is I'd love to see every single person come out of that trail network with a great big smile on their face, having had a positive experience. That's my mission, my personal mission. And I think it's working, right? So if you take that notion that everyone's going there for a positive experience and to have a good time and to relate to each other and see each other out in the forest, and there's no conflict, and it's just getting better and better and better, then do we need to ask ourselves at what point do we have to stop? We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. It's going well.
Awesome. Thank you. Questions, council? Anybody?
I don't have any questions, but I got a couple things. Thanks. Like you said, it gets better every year. Like that's
Awesome.
obviously the best presentation we've had so far from you guys. I just can't say enough about how stoked I am about what you guys are doing out there. I think there's a couple businesses that benefit that you didn't mention on there for co-relating.
Yes. Yes.
As well, just reading through the report, it's obvious how much work you guys do, and every time you read the word chunder, it reminds you that you guys are recreating as well as working. So it's kind of funny, like, reading
Right
all
on.
the different fun names and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I have one more, but I think I forget. Just thanks so much. It's just getting better and better, so appreciate it greatly.
Thanks,
Thank
Sean.
you. Cheers.
It's a pleasure.
Just a big thank you again for the work you guys do out there.
Yeah.
I certainly come out of the forest with a big smile whenever I get a
Awesome.
chance to get out there.
Awesome.
Yeah, and really happy to hear that your data is showing that there's less conflicts happening out there, and
Yeah.
and that the organization that you guys are organizing the trail network out there is starting to pay off.
Yeah.
So, kudos.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I love this report always because I'm a stats person, and just
Awesome.
the amount of stats you're pulling out here doesn't leave a lot of room for questions. I just think it's extraordinary. You look at the number of people using it, and then you've got 82 conflicts out of all those people. I mean, you get more conflicts walking down the sidewalk on
You
an
do.
average day than something
Yeah.
like that. So anyway, I really appreciate those two maps there. It really shows how that network has been managed well. And the signage, when people go out in the woods, they don't necessarily know that it's a downhill course and someone's rocking it, coming down. So that signage and just slowly shaping the personality of those trails has been very effective. And
Yeah.
thank you for that very hard work. So.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, well, like everyone else, thank you very much. I also really appreciate the membership communications you do to us members. There's, I think there's a lovely tone to that, and encouragement for us to behave the way you want, and we would all want everyone to behave on the trails.
Yeah.
And that's a really valuable. You've set up a conduit there that I think is really respected and useful. It does pertain. I do have a sort of a question here. You referenced the Perseverance Creek the storm that has caused so much grief around there, and that is, it may have been a 1-in-100-year event, but I don't think it's going to be 100 years before we see another one of those.
Sure.
And I think I'm looking forward to seeing the output of the work I know you're doing on the resilience of the network. And if you have anything more to say about that, I'd be interested. And on a parallel note, the data at the moment, or the suggestions at the moment, are we could be facing a very hot summer.
Mm-hmm.
And if not this year, then certainly in some years to come.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you have any contingencies for if we get, heat dome style of events and that sort of level of impact on the network and potential network limitations.
Mhm.
If you have any planning around that.
Yep. Well, I'll hold my comments for the Perseverance Creek project because we're all going into a room to work together on that one. So I wouldn't want to speak before we've had the opportunity to work through that. Sure, we've got lots of ideas for Perseverance Creek area, and we're ready and willing to jump in on board and help the process along, whatever we decide to. But then to speak to weather events like heat dome events and stuff like that, well, that just speaks directly to a fire risk. And we have process in format with the forestry companies, with Village of Cumberland, with the fire chief. When temperatures start getting silly and things start getting concerning and fire ratings go up, we all get into a room once a week and we have a conversation and we decide what we're going to do, whether that leads towards a closure, whether that leads towards messaging, whether that leads towards we stay with status quo, we're good. Of course, with the heat domes and stuff, sure, the air temperature can be baking hot, and it can feel like it's going to be a fire any moment, but it really does come from the ground. Like, what's the moisture content in the ground? What's happening in the ground? And that's where the forestry companies are really concerned, is like, are the roots of their trees getting water? Spanish needle something or other, there's a disease that they get. The minute that kicks in, then it's alarm bells. So to answer your question in a shorter way, yes, we do have plans in place and process in place for when we get those major weather events. Winter events and stuff, well, that's just whatever it throws at us. And we're always asking people, like, if you don't feel like going out on the trails today, that might be a good decision, right? But, get the cards out and play a game. But we work with it. The trail crew are hardy folk, and they're all ready to go. And whenever we say, let's go, we all go. So get out there and fix things and sort things out. It's mainly trees down that's the problem. Yeah, but we deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I did have one more question, just a point of clarification, because I think the adaptive trails is really interesting. Could you just maybe outline how
What's
those
happening?
differ and
Sure.
what features that might make an adaptive trail compared to
Sure.
to a different one?
So I'll start by saying that there has not really been a really great suite of designations that are out there and available for adaptive trails. There is one organization, the CASA organization from the Kootenay, that they brought out some designations for adaptive. They were extremely prescriptive, and what we were finding was trail associations were only really able to build one experience and one trail to get it up to a standard. So we worked with some local trail users who are in adaptive craft, and we're like, okay, well, what do you really need when you go out there? Now, we're just talking within the boundaries or within the parameters of mountain biking, single track trail experiences for adaptive users, right? We're not talking about wheelchair access. We're not talking about that sort of thing. Cumberland is a single track trail environment, so we stay within that realm. So when the adaptive users came to us, they said, okay, well, it's grade, it's bottoming out, it's off camber, it's slip, it's crash zones, it's recovery zones. If we crash and we roll and there's standing water next to there, we might drown, right? So there's all of these factors. So what we've done is we've gone through the network and we've earmarked. Generally, we don't earmark black diamond or double black diamonds. We work with blue square trails. And that blue square trail, we will go in and we will soften an off camber, or we'll remove a pinch point. We'll trim down a stump. We will go to the trail side and we'll remove away logs that have dropped with lots of spiky branches out of it. We'll put a little drainage channel into a standing water and let it flow as opposed to stand. We will slightly widen sometimes. Now, what we've been able to do is we've been able to make those trail edits. We've called them edits. We've been able to make those trail edits without changing the character of the trail, without regular trail users even noticing. But then what's happening is Gene has been our crash test dummy, so to speak, or what's when he goes out and he just test rides the trails, and he's like, these are awesome. So now we've got one trail in, and we've got two trails in, and we've got three trails, and we're linking it up. So we started with the climbing trails to get them in. Now, how can we get them out safely? And how can we get them out with them just going on their own, not needing a support rider? So we worked all of that out, and we earmarked a variety of different trails. We created a bunch of loops and routes and stuff that we could work with, and we got it down, and like I said earlier, we're about 55, 60, 65 trails. I say a 10 trail variation because some of those trails are pretty full on, but we're 55 good for someone who's a fairly average adaptive rider. And what's really cool about this, not only that they're able to get out into the network, is that we've actually been able to include adaptive riders into some of our events. We've been able to have an adaptive route. So for the 12 Hours of Cumberland, Gene entered one year, and he was able to enter as a team, right? We had Ty Turner, who's a snowboarder. He's lost his legs in a skydiving accident. He entered an event. They came and they did a film, adaptive film here. Like, this is what Cumberland's doing. This is amazing. And we have a lot of adaptive users are those who have a prosthetic leg, or they've lost a limb or something, so they use an e-bike. So we got all the e-bike classifications in. We got some trail etiquette going for e-bikes. We started educating to people, no, they're not bad to have. People say, you're cheating. I say, you don't know why. So let's teach around that, and so say, hey, buddy, how you doing? Good to see you out today, right? And we start educating. So there's all these factors. So it's not just changing up the trails to make them able to be compatible. It's getting some trail etiquette in there and talking about it, including them in events, getting some routes in together, not having one prescriptive trail experience. We're having numerous trail experiences. And last thing that I'll quickly mention is that we're updating our trail forks to include a checkbox that these trails are adaptive, because adaptive users will go onto trail forks and they will seek different destinations that they can pack up their van, throw their bike into the van, and go to that place. So what does that mean? They need to have an accessible accommodation. They need to have restaurants that they can get into, right? Cumberland has that. Cumberland has that emerging. King George Hotels just put in an entirely adaptive, accessible suite. And this notion of tourism for adaptive trails becomes really important when a trail network say, well, we can offer 55 trails, right? Cowichan has 1 because they went with the CASA standards. So we're putting it up on our website, that we're having an adaptive place on our website. We've created videos where we've got Gene gone out and filmed all the routes, filmed all of the trails. He talks through his experience on it. So those adaptive users elsewhere in the country can watch that video and say, I'm down for Cumberland, I'm doing it. And they jump on a plane and they come over here and they come for a trail experience and they come and visit. So that's the sort of things that we've been thinking about and doing with adaptive.
Thank you so much. That is absolutely incredible, and it's nice to see UROC bringing that to Cumberland as a leader in that. So thank you. Wonderful work.
Thank you.
So I remember what I wanted to pull out about the 3 people who found the possible fires starting up. Like, that's some value-added stuff that is very important.
Sorry, I missed.
In the report, there was it mentioned 3 fire incidences that were reported by UROC
People
riders.
found
Oh, yeah.
People found them. Sorry,
Yeah.
not loud enough.
Yeah.
Just to
Trail
mention
users.
how value-added the communication of UROC and those
Yeah.
kind of things bring to the community.
Yeah.
And just even the metrics for the survey are really
On the
helpful. And come up
North
with some
side
of
of
those questions.
Allen Lake was where
Yeah.
2 of those fires were. And
Yeah.
trail users found them, put them out, and
Yeah.
posted it on Facebook, said, who's the silly person?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thanks again.
We really are. The trail users are stewards. It's good news.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I see your president is also here, and I just want to give her an opportunity to add to anything that Dougal's mentioned, or...
Yeah, thanks, Vicky. I don't think there's much to add. I think Dougal covered it all. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the whole adaptive thing. I think it's going to be really awesome to make it inclusive and everybody can come, right? And it's not just,
Yeah.
they're really looking for being able to do proper trails and not just Queen wheelchair accessible trails. So I think we're all pretty stoked on that. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. I think there was a conversation, and I'm trying to remember if it's happened or not, but you guys were looking at doing another economic impact study. Is that
Yeah.
still in the planning?
So the VIU did a pretty good survey,
Okay.
and that locked in there. I don't know, was that shared with the gang?
That's the survey we got?
Is it? Or was that our...
in the documents.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
If you give me a second, I can find it.
I think I did click on that link. I just didn't go through. I didn't recognize it as like a traditional economic impact.
So we were going to do that, and then VIU came in and said, hey, we're going to do this. And we're like, awesome. You guys, you're a professor of stats. Let's go. So you click on that link there, and it will take you to, and they did this survey for all trail associations in BC, right? And Cumberland was the pilot. Cumberland was like the flagship spot that they did.
So we went first.
So we went first, and we had the most people fill out the survey. We had the most engagement. It was banging. It was awesome. So click on that link, get into that. It's great bedtime reading, I'll tell you. If you're into the trails and you want to know a little bit about what those trails are doing for us, yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Awesome.
amazing.
thank
And
you
there's
so
a lot of
much.
economic stuff in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll go back and have another look.
So that kind of saved us a few bucks doing that.
Yeah, no kidding. It's
awesome.
really great to
Mhm.
partner with universities. They have a lot of capacity.
They do. And the professor, whose name I don't dare to try and pronounce, he was extremely clued into surveys.
Oh, cool.
Really
Yeah.
sharp. So some great data in there.
Yeah.
And we also did a trail survey last year, just a local one, a little bit more sort of localized. I think that was also probably shared in there as
Yeah.
well. So, have a more bedtime reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit as well. So it's on page 10, there's a link to the VIU, and that was commissioned by the Mountain Bike Tourism Association of BC. And it was an economic development study, but it was more an advocacy effort for provincial investment in community trail systems.
Oh.
Recognizing how much tourism, economic development, it was trying to capture the value of some of that tourism as economic development as a result of these community investment in trail networks. So it wasn't, it was province-wide, and it was, I guess just, it was a little bit different than a traditional one that was maybe just done by the community, maybe 6 years ago, in that it was a larger scope and had a different kind of intent in terms of its lobbying.
Well, that's awesome, because the province has decided they want to double tourism in the province. And so there could be potential for an opportunity for us to partner on some kind of funding, something. If they want to drive more tourists to our trail network, we'll take some money for that. Or infrastructure, or
A
trail
bridge in
maintenance
Perseverance
money,
Creek?
or bridges, or, yeah, a bridge over Perseverance Creek, a very long, wide bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's keep thinking about that. Yeah. Thank you for all of that, and the presentation, and for all you do for the network.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Alex.
Thanks for
I
hearing
can
us.
see that was not so easy.
Spring break, working
Thank
with
you, yes, exactly. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, and with that, we're on to question period. Do we have any questions? No questions. Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn then, please?
Move adjournment?
Second.